Hey everybody, welcome back to another reading of Star Wars. We're going to finish chapter 11 today. So here we go. Elevators hummed busily, lifting more and more deadly shapes from buried depths into the staging area in the primary temple hangar as Luke, 3PO, and R2D2 walked toward the hangar entrance. Neither the bustling flight crews nor the pilots performing final checkouts, nor the massive sparks thrown off as power couplings were disconnected captured Luke's attention at the moment. Instead, it was held by the activity of two far more familiar figures. Solo and Chewbacca were loading a pile of small strong boxes onto an armored land speeder. They were completely absorbed with this activity, ignoring the preparations going on all around them. Solo glanced up briefly as Luke and the robots approached, then returned to his loading. Luke simply watched sadly, conflicting emotions careening confusedly off one another inside him. Solo was cocky, reckless, intolerant, and smug. He was also brave to a fault, instructive, and unfailingly cheery. The combination made for a confusing friend, but a friend nonetheless. You got your reward, Luke finally observed, indicating the box. Solo nodded once. And you're leaving then? Luke asked. That's right, kid. I got some old debts to pay off, and even if I didn't, I don't think I'd be fool enough to stick around here. He eyed Luke appraisingly. You're pretty good in the scrape, kid. Why don't you come up with us? I could use you. The mercenary gleam in Solo's eyes only made Luke mad. Why don't you look around you and see something besides yourself for a change? You know what's going to happen here, what they're up against. They could use a good pilot, but you turn your back on them. Solo didn't appear upset at Luke's tirade. What's good? What's good a reward? What good's a reward if you're not around to spend it? Attacking that battle station isn't my idea of courage. More like suicide. Yeah, take care of yourself, Han. Luke said quietly, turning to leave. But I guess that's what you're best at, isn't it? Ouch. He started back into the hangar depths, flanked by the two droids. Solo stared after him, hesitated, and then called, Hey, Luke, may the Force be with you. Luke, Luke looked back to see Solo wink. He waved, sort of. That's not in a movie. Then it was swallowed up by moving mechanics machine. Solo returned to his work, lifted the box, and stopped to see Chewbacca gazing fixedly at him. What are you staring at, Gruesome? Gruesome called. What are you staring at, Gruesome? I know what I'm doing. Get back to work. Slowly, still eyeing his partner, the Wookiee returned to the task of loading the heavy crates. Sorrowful thoughts of Solo vanished when Luke saw the petite, slim figure standing by his ship, the ship he had been granted. Are you sure this is what you want? Princess Leia asked him. It could be a deadly reward. Luke's eyes were filled with the sleek, venomous metal were filled with the sleek and venomous metal shape more than anything. And what's wrong? Luke looked back at her and shrugged. Excuse me. It's on. I thought he changed his mind. I thought he'd join us. A man must follow his own path, she told him, sounding more like a senator. Sounding like a senator. No one can choose it for him. Han Solo's priority is different from ours. I wish it were otherwise, but I can't find it in my heart to condemn. She stood on tiptoes, giving him a quick, almost embarrassed kiss, and turned to go. May the force be with you. I only wish Ben were here. Luke murmured to himself as he started back to his ship. So intent was he on the thoughts of Kenobi, the princess, and Han that he didn't notice the larger figure which tightly locked onto his arm. He turned, his initial anger gone, instantly in astonishment as he recognized the figure. Luke! I don't believe it. How'd you get here? Are you going out with us? Biggs. Luke embraced his friend warmly. Of course I'll be up there with you. His smile faded slightly. I haven't got a choice anymore. Then he brightened again. Listen, have I got some stories to tell you? The steady whooping and laughing with the two made was in marked contrast to the solemnity with which the other men and women in the hangar went about their business. The commotion attracted the attention of an older, war-worn man known to the younger pilots only as Blue Leader. Blue Leader. His face wrinkled with curiosity as he approached the two younger men. It was a face scorched by the same fire that flickered in his eyes, a blaze kindled not by revolutionary fervor, but by years of living through and witnessing far too much injustice. Behind that fatherly facade, a raging demon fought to escape. Soon, very soon, he would be free to let loose. Now he was interested in these two young men who, in a few hours, were likely to be particles of frozen meat floating about Yavin. One of them he recognized. Aren't you Luke Skywalker? Have you been checked out on Incom 265? Sir, Biggs put in before his friend could reply. Luke's the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim territories. The older man patted Luke reassuringly on the back as they studied his waiting ship. Something to be proud of. I got over 1,000 hours in the Incom Skyhopper myself. He paused a moment before going on. I met your father once when I was just a boy, Luke. He's a great pilot. You do all right out there. If you got half of your father's skills, you'll do a damn sight better than all. And all right. Thank you, sir. I'll try. There's not much difference control-wise between X-Wing 265 and the Skyhopper. Blue Leader went on. His smile turned ferocious, except the payloads of a somewhat different nature. He left them and hurried toward his own ship. Luke had 100 questions to ask him, and no time for even one. I've got to get aboard my own boat, Luke. Listen, you'll tell me your stories when you come back. All right? All right. I told you I'd make it here someday, Biggs. You did. His Biggs was moving toward a cluster of waiting fighters, adjusting his flight suit. It's going to be like old times, Luke. For a couple of shooting stars that can't be stopped. Luke laughed. They used to reassure themselves with that cry when they piloted startships of sand hills and dead logs behind the flaking, pitted buildings of Anchorhead, years and years ago. Once more, Luke looked toward his ship, admiring his deadly lines. Despite despite Blue Leader's assurances, he had to admit that it didn't look much like an Incom Skyhawk. R2-D2 was being snuggled into the R2 socket behind the cockpit. A forlorn metal figure stood below, watching the operation, shuffling nervously about. Hold on tight, C-3PO was cautioning the smaller robot. You've got to come back. If you don't come back, who am I going to have to yell at? For 3PO, that query amounted to an overwhelming outburst of emotion. R2 beat confidently down at his friend, however, as Luke mounted the cockpit entry. Farther down the hangar, he saw Blue Leader already sat in his acceleration chair and signaling to his ground crew. Another roar was added to the monstrous din filling the hangar area as ship after ship activated its engines. In that enclosed rectangle of temple, the steady thunder was overpowering. Slipping into the cockpit seat, Luke studied the various controls as ground attendants began wiring him via cords and umbilicals into the ship. His confidence increased steadily. The instrumentation was necessarily simplified, and as Blue Leader had indicated, much like his old Skyhawk. Something patted his helmet, and he glanced left to see the crew chief lean close. He had to shout to be heard above the deafening howl of, of multiple engines. The R2 unit, yours seems like a little beat up. Do you want a new one? Luke glanced Luke glanced briefly back at the secure droid before replying. R2-D2 looked like a permanent piece of the fighter. Not in your life. The droid and I have been through a lot together. All right, all secure, R2? The droid replied with a reassuring beep. As ground chief jumped clear, Luke commenced the final checkout of all instruments. It slowly occurred to him that what he and others were about to attempt, not not that his personal feelings could override his decision to join them. He was no longer an individual, functioning solely to satisfy his personal needs. Something now bound him to every other man and woman in this hangar. All around him, scattered scenes of goodbye were taking place. Some serious, some kidding, all with the true emotion of the moment masked by efficiency. Luke turned away from where one pilot possibly possibly a sister or wife or just a friend, with a sharp passion case. He wondered how many of them had their own little debts to settle with the Empire. Something crackled in his helmet. In response, he touched a small lever. The ship began to roll forward, slowly but with increasing speed toward the gaping mouth of the temple. And that's the end of chapter 7. I'm sorry, chapter 11. Chapter 11. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.